You are so underrated, bro. Now make it able to play Doom.
Can it run Doom?
Waiting for people to play
Can
Doom
it
and
run
build
If
a
it has a
boat.
Can it run
processor,
Doom?
it can run
Can it
Doom.
run
We
Doom,
can
though?
finally
Can it
run
run
Doom
Doom?
in fact.
Can it play Doom?
Today I'm going to show you how I managed to kind of recreate Doom and build a boat for treasure. For those unfamiliar, Doom is an iconic first-person shooter released in 1993, where players kill demons using a wide variety of weapons. Now let's dive into the challenges I faced during the process and how I brought Doom to life and build a boat for treasure. Since an actual computer is nearly impossible to build within Build a Boat for Treasure, and we can't create a true 3D renderer, we have to get creative and find a way to simulate one. I've seen a lot of Minecraft Doom recreations, and one approach really caught my attention. A Redstone Doom built by Kronos. It's essentially a point-and-click style game, and it also creates the illusion of movement when you walk forward. And while it's simplified, hey, it's still Doom, and I think it's absolutely achievable in Build a Boat. For the game map design, I wanted to take inspiration from one of the earliest horror games, 3D Monster Maze. The design elements I focused on were the checker pattern surface texture and the black sides, which create a shadow or distant effect. These two aspects are key to setting the atmosphere. So how are we going to do this in Build a Boat? Well, I came across a video where someone demonstrated a Lego flip dot mechanism. A flip dot, in simple terms, is an electromechanical display element that toggles between two states by flipping a small magnetic disc. It's like a dynamic display panel where one side of the dot shows one color representing off, and flipping it reveals the other color representing on. This concept can be adapted to Build a Boat to create interactive elements or visual displays. But how are we really going to implement this in Build a Boat? The flip switch mechanism I made here is very simple. It's just a spring that, when pushed, generates an output. This basic setup allows for easy toggling. I also added another flip switch compacted into a 1-pixel size, allowing it to have two outputs, one for the surface and another for the shadow. Just basically multiply this 100 times and then we get the full resolution for our game. I've also added a bunch of pistons with blocks to serve as inputs for each outputs, and I also included a set of pistons that allow it to move freely left and right. This might be the only easiest mechanism I made in this project. Now that it's finally done, we need to create the illusion of movement by designing a preset sequence of outputs using delay blocks and pistons to simulate forward motion. This complex structure may look complicated, but it's essentially just a series of frames for the pistons that will be our inputs, which will be displayed in the output. Believe it or not, it took me 2 days to get it working properly. It's not perfect because the illusion is somewhat hindered by lag. That's why it's also too slow, because of the amount of piston activating at once, which is also a limitation of Roblox's physics engine. With all that settled, it's time for the fun part, creating a shooting system. This is my first time doing any art-related stuff in Build a Boat, so please don't judge. The weapon I'm going to use is a super shotgun, but with a twist, it's going to shoot one round at a time instead of two. I think this is a cooler approach, and it makes it easier to build the mechanism for it. Now, we still have to make it reload. To achieve this, I had to manually create each sprite of the reloading animation. It was a tedious process, but I think it'll be worth it. After that, I moved on to animating it and added the firing sprites for the shooting action. I'm really proud of how it turned out, especially since this is my first time doing something like this. Now we need an enemy to shoot at, but first, we need to make a hitbox for our bullets and a mechanism so it switch sprites from alive to death sprite when the bullet register. For that, we're gonna need a complex locking mechanism. This mechanism here consists of two locks. When the first spring is pushed, it causes a chain reaction, pushing the second spring down and automatically locking both locks in place. We still need a sprite for the enemy, so it's time to create one, so yeah, another time lapse. The enemy I'll be using is the zombie soldier since it's relatively simple to make. I finally finished working on the sprite and added a piston to push it towards the screen. I'm glad it still matches the style pretty well. But we still need to make it work. Right now, nothing happens when I shoot because I haven't added any mechanism for hitting the zombie yet. However, we still have a problem. Every time I try to move, the vertical spring always bugs out. To fix this, we need to recreate a more durable spring by using a servo and hinges. After that, I tested it again, and to my surprise, it works. I can now move freely without worrying about it breaking. So, first things first, I tested the locking mechanism to see if it works, and yeah, it does. The shooting mechanic here is simple. It only consists of a piston that pushes a wall forward. If an enemy hitbox is in front of the wall, it triggers a locking mechanism upon impact. Now we need the enemy to shoot us and deal damage to our health. I intend to implement a red screen effect that activates whenever the player gets hit. This will be achieved by using a spring and a red wall mechanism attached to the enemy, which will push the wall to create the hit effect. Simple, right? No, it took me days of debugging, and to make it finally working, not only just that, the locking mechanism breaks and also doesn't register the bullet no matter what I did, since for some reason the locking mechanism sometimes ignores collision and decides to always clip through. So I had to keep reworking on every single mechanism to finally make it work. It took me 3 days. 3 days! But yeah, the hardest part of this project is finally done. For the health part, I created a simple rotary dial with a locking mechanism. When the red part appears, it triggers the lock, causing the rotary dial to rotate. I've used this mechanism in the past for a working calculator tutorial video, which you can check out linked in the description or above this video. I also added a debugger to my game to keep track of ongoing actions and implemented a function that makes the enemy respawn in a different position every time I walk forward. But I got distracted by this CJ suit I bought and ended up goofing around with it. It's so cursed. Anyways, we're almost done. Now we just need to add some UI elements to give it a more polished look. For the head, I decided to make it so it changes expression every time it reloads and walks forward. And for the shells, yeah, it's self-explanatory. I love how it's so satisfying to watch it reload and shoots. For the final part, I added health numbers so the player takes 10 to 20 damage every time they get hit, and I'm really proud of how it turned out. After that, I started working on the main menu screen as the finishing touch. Now that everything is done, let's start playing this game. This project took me days to finish, and in my opinion, it was definitely worth it. It demonstrates that with enough creativity, you can create just about anything and build a boat for treasure. That's one of the reasons I love this game so much and continue to play it to this day. For now, I'm going to take a break from these crazy projects to focus on making tutorials for you guys and creating cool transformers, since this is where I started. As for the build itself, I'd give it a solid 10 out of 10. It may be broken, but it's the project I love the most. If you're still here, thank you for your time. I hope this project inspires everyone interested in build-a-boat mechanics. Thank you for watching, and Godspeed.